everyone. So you are back for part one of this series talking about the challenge of the month. So task one in that challenge is to read a book. Now, reading a book can be frightening. I know. I remember being young and trying to read a book, and it was so difficult for me. I really couldn't sit still. My eyes didn't really want to focus. I felt like I read so slow, or you felt like you already read that line. But I want to encourage you, anything that you get better at, you get better with practice. And reading is so good for your mind. It is so good for you to further your knowledge base and to challenge yourself outside of graduating from high school and college. It's something that will grow with you, that you can continue to do for the rest of your life. So I want to encourage you to read a book. Now, there's so many different types of books out there. And I am not here to say, hey, read this book. This is what I'm reading. But I'm here to do two things. One is to encourage you, to tell you that you can do it. If you desire to enrich yourself in this way and to pick up a book, you will be better for it. So you can do it. Two, I want to give you some resources so that you can do it and not feel like you're out there on your own, or that this challenge is too difficult because you don't even know where to start. So I'm here. Please comment below if there's anything that I can do, that I can help you with. I am so in your corner because I want to see us all be better after this pandemic. That is what's on my heart. The first thing I want to talk about is book versus audiobook. So that comes to the table where people are like, are you cheating by doing an audiobook? No. This is about enriching yourself. There's no cheating in this challenge. So you decide which one works for you. Now, I do both. I happen to enjoy audiobooks. Hey, I actually am an audiobook narrator. So I have some books over on Audible through Amazon as well if you'd like to listen to them. Now, many of them are children's books, but it is something that I know brings so much value to others. The second thing I wanted to say is that as moms, we have a responsibility to help our children foster a love for reading. There's so much value in reading to our children, and I feel as though if that had been done for me, possibly I might be a better reader. I come from a great upbringing as far as academics, and my mom, I remember that she bought this set of encyclopedias, and after we finished our homework, we actually had to read either one of those encyclopedias or pages from the dictionary. And you didn't have a choice. You had to read, but you got a choice of what you wanted to read. And that really just encouraged me to build my skill, even though it wasn't something that I was the best at. My mom has gone on and passed away, and one of the things I remember about her is that she wanted to leave a legacy. So she was actually building this library in her home, and every time I would come to visit her, she would say, yes, you can take one, and I've got multiple copies, because she knew that where we were going to go in our future, that trajectory was going to be expanded by the books that we read. And Jim Rohn was one of her favorites, and she encouraged me. She talked about them. She gave us little quips from them all the time, and it has always stayed with me. So I continue to read and to grow. So here today, I just wanted to show you some of the things. Now, you probably want to know what I'm reading. So the first month in January, I read St. Augustine's Confessions. Now, it is one of the first autobiographies ever written. I wanted to start there. I am a part of Classical Conversations, and through that we believe in classical education for our children, and it also means that we have to reclaim our education for ourselves. And so I wanted to go with something really challenging, and that book was very challenging. But I had the help of a lot of YouTube channels that were able to give me information more about the book, delve in deeper into it. At Harvard, they had a series on it, and I watched that on YouTube as well. So I really digested that book. Secondly, the book club for Johns Hopkins is reading this book. I hope it's not backwards, but it was on Oprah's book club, and so we were reading it for that. And I'll be honest, this book was tremendously heavy for me. So I had to take a break from it in January, but I'm going to continue on so that I finish it up. Now, on my audiobook, I'm also listening to a few books. So I do a daily listen to The Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. I also have it in paper copy, but I try to listen to it each day as a daily devotional. So anyway, I just want to encourage you to get a book. I have other books that I love reading too. Etiquette is here, which I'll talk about too. Well-Trained Mind. This is a book that I'll talk about in a few minutes. And I greatly enjoy the Madame Chic series. This is by Jennifer L. Scott. She has an amazing channel here on YouTube, and one day I'd love to interview her, or at least just let her know how much her videos have encouraged and inspired my life. So anyway, I want to tell you about the 5 books that I have read that kind of are top 5 in my life. So top 5 books that I've read are right here. Now, I'll get to this one last, but this was because of my mom, and she recommended it, and I recommend it to anyone. I mean, this was probably the most fascinating book that I've read about 12 pillars and how to live our life. So I would say this is one of the top 5 that I've read, which is the 12 Pillars by Jim Rohn. This one is The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. I know this has been out a long time, but it really started my knowledge base about personal finance, and I can talk about that if that's of any interest to people. I do have a finance and accounting background, but this was an amazing book. It talks about the powerful steps that you can take to make sure that you finish your life rich, and so this was amazing. I read this book probably 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago for the first time. Brian Tracy was another one my mom loved. And I read this book, and it really set me on a goal. This is one of the books that talked about writing 50 goals for your life. And I've done that every year of my life ever since reading this book. So I recommend this book if you need a recommendation. I read Robert Shula. And it says, tough times never last, but tough people do. And I grew up, my mom used to watch him and his church on TV when I was growing up. And so being able to read this book really just connected me a lot to my mom, and really encouraged and inspired me. And so it's new, I'm adding to the list. And so I added it there. And for so many reasons, just came at a good time in my life. So I want to encourage anybody who's going through tough times, we all are with this pandemic, that this is a good read. So I wanted to have something super encouraging in here. And then finally, I wanted a book that would help me with my reading. So this book, yes, it's a little bit thick. It's also available on audiobook, and it is How to Read a Book. And it is The Classic Guide to Intelligent Reading. And it is by Mortimer Adler, and it is amazing. I've read this book at least twice, and it really has helped guide me. And it's one of the reasons that I did attempt to read St. Augustine's book, this and the next set of books I'll talk about. But if you want to know how to read, whether it be for education purposes, if you're working on a doctorate, or you're working on something that you really want to be able to retain and to read well, this was a great read. I got this actually from my mom as well. This was one of the books that she had, but also I had always wanted to read it, and I was so intimidated by it. So audiobook helped me the first read through be able to read it, and then I was able to go back and read this copy as well. These books were amazing, and like that book, because sometimes books intimidate me, I had the audiobook for them both first and read them that way, and then now I've probably read them a few times. So this one is A Well-Trained Mind. It is a guide to classical education at home, and it talks about how to educate your kids. It even gives you a step-by-step curriculum in the back of things to do with the different age groups. So this was an amazing read. I read this the first time 2 years ago as we were thinking about embarking on homeschooling, and this was amazing. If you really want to stretch your children and really give them a powerful leg up in education, classical is definitely the way to go. And then as a part of a series where she did after that was The Well-Educated Mind. And this is for us. This is about us reclaiming the education that we had that had so many gaps in it. And I'm not saying that public school is not amazing. Just for me, I felt like it really had a lot of gaps and things that I could have really been stretched more on. I wasn't, and now I am reclaiming my education. And this says The Well-Trained Mind, a guide to the classical education you never had, and it truly has helped encourage me. This is actually the book that gives you a book list if you are interested in reading, and it breaks it down into different categories, and the first book in the autobiography is the book that I read. So that was what the list I started from was out of this book. So I want to encourage you, if you are homeschooling, to look into this. And then if you're not homeschooling, to still look into this as a resource for yourself. So those are the 5 books that my favorite books of all time. So I'll list them down below, and they were amazing at changing my life, and they will change yours too. There's other things that you can read as well. Some of the things that I've read to Hazel Gray were some of these great illustrated classics, just so that I could do some of the classic books. So Pride and Prejudice is the ones that we've read. Heidi, one that she really loved, so that it can really explain the movie, was The Wizard of Oz. So we read this one as well. And there's a few other here that I think we're reading. We're reading Pollyanna. That's this one here, and then we have Little Women and The Secret Garden that we haven't really delved into. And don't be afraid to read the books, even if they have words that you just think your kids might be too young to understand. Sometimes I have to explain to them a little bit. Sometimes by the context of what we've read, she gets it. So really, it's about stretching, and it's about being involved and being in that space with your children and really encouraging them and try to foster that love of reading. If you want them to learn to love reading, they have to see you doing it. You have to love it. So this is one of the reasons that I think that this challenge is really encouraging us to improve ourselves and pour into ourselves so that we are modeling that for our children. There are a lot of great books and classical books, and even just books that you might be interested in, that are on YouTube, and you can listen to them on YouTube, pause them, come back to them. They're free. And so I encourage you, if there's something that you want to read, kind of type in audiobook, full audiobook, and you'll see some there. You don't have to purchase everything. My goal is not to have you break the bank on this challenge. If you want me to tell you the truth, there's a great website that sells used books called Abe Books, and I can put that below. And that's where I got these books from, and a lot of these books. There's also a great used bookstore where they're refurbishing, and just I want to encourage you to not let money set you back in any of these things. I am probably one of the most cost-conscious people that you know. I say that instead of saying frugal, which is cheap, but I am probably up there too. And Abe Books has been amazing to sending me books. I think this book $3.25. But also realize we're supporting authors too, so we want to buy them from bookstores. A lot of them are really having difficult times during this pandemic, so I want to encourage you to patronize those. So that's really it. Thank you for making it to the end. I really want you to be encouraged to read. It helps you, it benefits, it has generational rippling effects that will help the legacy that you leave behind, as I am evidence of, and you will be better for it. So remember, take this challenge. I hope to see you back for the next video. Read a book. You can do it. Be encouraged. You can do it. And even if it's something that you think you won't get through, you will. If not, we'll get through it together. Comment below and let me know what books you're reading in this challenge. And also, comment if you have read any of these books that I've mentioned here. I'd love to know so we could dialogue about them, and be encouraged, and I'll see you soon.